And today of all days, I'm going round two. We don't often go round two, but this guy was off the hook, off the chain. We wanted to come back and have a deeper conversation. This is Ad, the Kingmaker. Now, today we're talking about all things money, wealth, relationships, and whichever angle it takes us. It's going to be fun. It's going to be engaging. Now, Ad, why should anyone stay and listen to this particular show?
Yeah. I will put it this way. I've been mentored by millionaires and billionaires, and we're talking mindset, money, success. And then I start to look at like their relationship sometimes with themselves and like the women in their lives. And I'm just like,
Mm, mm.
your relationship with your money will be impacted by your relationship with your woman. And so there's a few keys. I would consider myself in like the top 1%, and I'm in terms of that. So I think
Yeah.
today's conversation is going to be super impactful for someone who like wants to navigate their relationship and their love life and keep their wealth intact.
Right. So listen here. Listen, let me add a little bit of kudos now before we get going.
Oh,
He's known as the
one more
RPA.
thing is it's AD. I know you keep saying ad, it's
I
AD.
keep saying AD. All right, listen. Let's keep
It's
it.
all
We're
good.
having this conversation. There's no going to be
Yeah,
any pause. We're going straight in.
let's
AD,
go.
the RPA guy. I think you corrected me on our last conversation as well, but not to worry. He's a lifestyle coach, also known as the RPA guy, and dedicated to helping men, especially, and also sometimes women, build outstanding, extraordinary life based on what they want and who they are as a person. No nonsense wisdom, straight to the chase, and that's what we're talking about here. Now what I want to say is this. He specializes, as I said, helping men and women, but not only in life, but also in money, in wealth, in business, in the career. And one of his businesses is helping people to start earning a quarter of a million or more in working less than 20 hours a week. So we are talking all things money, relationships, and everything else here. So listen, above all, heading towards financial freedom, time freedom, relationship freedom. We love all of that and purpose driven freedom as well. So, Ad, for those who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about your background for a minute or so and tell
Yeah,
us what you do and what you've been doing up to now.
for sure, for sure. So I am a tech professional. I'm a software developer of sorts. The software that I use is called RPA. It is what I believe to be the simplest, easiest, most straightforward way to go about getting into tech with no certifications, no technical background, no degree, no nothing. And that business kind of just started as me doing it for so many years and then having the thought one day of, I think I can teach friends and family how to do that. Right. And so that's exactly what I did. And I had friends and family get into the industry. They start making $100,000 and I have people start making $250,000. And I'm just like, okay, this works. Let me systemize this. And that all started about 2 years ago. And then from there, I kind of got freed up with more time and more money. And I started to realize like helping people get into tech is great and helping men increase their self-worth and their image of themselves is great. But what I really, really want to do is I want to help them live an outstanding life, and that's a life on their terms. And I think that I think that as a man, really as a woman too, but specifically as a man, part of our life, like it's hard to have a great life if you do not ever learn the rules and the of mating and dating. Right?
Yeah,
Like imagine being this highly successful guy who's fit, who loves himself and all this, but like you don't know how to go about acquiring the relationship
yeah,
with the
yeah.
person that you want and you fear like losing your wealth to divorce and things like that, right? So I really strive to help men win in that aspect too.
Yeah.
And the rules of the game are actually fairly simple and straightforward. We've just never been taught them.
Wow. Okay, let me throw this in there. I remember I was speaking at an event just a couple of weeks ago, and I was coaching someone, and they are a what they call it, relationship coach, divorce coach. And I was helping him to position his offer in terms of
Mhm.
who's going to buy it, how much the price, in order position the offer. And I said, one of the things you need to be aware of is he said, what pain does he said my clients are men. And I said, okay, so if you're positioning your offer, you need to understand that they'll have some pain if they go through a messy divorce. And
Hmm.
so you're saying if they come to your workshop and you train them on relationships, you can save their marriage. He said, yes. So I said, part of the positioning has to be that this is how much it's going to cost you if you go through a relation. And this guy is based in Singapore. I said, on
Hmm.
average, how much would it cost a Singaporean man if he goes through a divorce? And he said, about $500,000. And I'm saying,
Mm.
okay, so you need to let them know. They need to come to your course. Your course is only $2,000. If they, otherwise, it's going to cost them. So we positioned all of that so they can really understand. Reason why I'm saying
Yes.
that, AD, is again about the cost of not really nurturing your relationship.
Yes. 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 I like that. That's very logical. That would catch my attention. I
Right,
have a slightly different view on it. I
right,
believe that so let me I'll pop it off with this. I don't believe in marriage counseling. I don't think it works. I don't think relationship counseling works. And the reason for that is when a husband and a wife go to relationship counseling, the husband is not the client. The wife is not the client.
uh,
The relationship itself is the client.
got it.
Okay. And so their job is to keep the relationship together. But oftentimes, the big mistake that men make is they're not willing to end the relationship. They don't have to end the relationship, but they do have to be willing to end it if they feel as though they're not being respected
Right.
or treated in such a way. So, having the ability or the willingness to end it is what we need, right? Because you have to have respect, and a part of respect is fear. There has to be a fear that, hey, if I don't treat this person right, if me and you are great friends, right?
Right.
I appreciate and honor and love you, and vice versa. Part of a great friendship, or even let's say a mentorship, is you have to be afraid to some degree of losing that person's approval, because
Right.
then you don't have the relationship anymore. And
Mm.
so to me, that's why I say my viewpoint is different. I believe you can have an outstanding relationship and or marriage without ever having to worry about a divorce.
Mm.
That's kind of the positioning that I would come from.
No, I get it. And for me, after being married this year, I'll be married. Well, from 2 months' time, I'll be married for 25 years. So
Hmm.
I know what that takes, and I know the roller coaster of
Yeah.
relationship and marriage.
Let me ask you, do you wake up in the morning fearing divorce?
No, 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 that's not even in my mind. That's not
See?
that's not even in my mind.
Exactly.
Because do you know why that's not in my mind? It's
Why is that?
because you will attract what you think. You'll
Yes.
attract how you behave. And so for
Yes.
me, I'm every day unconsciously, I am already geared towards having a fruitful marriage, fruitful relationship with
Yep.
my wife, and say with my children, just having a fruitful relationship rather than the fear of. And if
Yep.
you're living
Yep.
a life of fear, 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 you're going to attract a lot more of that, right?
Yep. Yep. And I've seen the images of you and your wife, bro. Your wife is smiling, big
Right.
grin, like not a half smile, not a like big toothy grin in all the photos,
Uh-huh.
man. So you're killing it. You're killing it. Props to you.
Listen, let me thank you for that, by the way. Let me say this. The I want to talk about the cost of the relationship falling apart by not
Mm-hmm.
following some of the advice that you
Mm-hmm.
give, whether it's on the
Mm-hmm.
man's side or the woman's side or both.
Yeah.
What is the cost of that?
The cost of assuming someone's already married is what we're saying, right?
Or
And then
in a relationship, yeah, if they
okay.
married because they're married, if they're married, there's legislation, there's legal matters that go with it,
Mhm.
there's assets that go with it. And on the flip side of it, yes, we can look at the cost, but on the flip side of it, what is the fruitfulness of really garnering a great relationship, working together to build something significant, that's where my thoughts are on this side.
Sorry, my apologies. My laptop is dying. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you clearly.
Okay. The what are the I'm sorry, one more time.
Yeah,
What
what's
are
the
the what?
cost? And on the other side, on the flip side, what is the benefit of really nurturing something great?
Um the cost so I think the cost of not really tending to or nurturing a relationship is probably going to be disappointment, sadness on the other side, for me personally, I know growing up, I had, and even to this day, I am accidentally triggered when I have the thought they don't want me or she does not want me, right? And that
Mm.
triggers, I don't know if it's shame, I don't know, it might be just sadness and disappointment, right? So that is the price that someone pays, like having to deal with that over and over and over and over again,
Right,
that
right,
doubt of like, when is she going to leave, when this is going to end, and
right.
how much am I going to lose, right? And on the other side of it, like if you do, really attend to the rules, right, of mating and dating, you can have easy, effortless
Mm.
relationships where it's high quality, where there's always a lot of respect, right? And it's funny because here's the telltale sign of a great relationship. They're actually boring. They're fairly boring.
All
There's
right.
no chaos. There's no drama. And
Oh, no
so
drama. Hmm.
if you are in a relationship where it's you know what to expect and there's not a lot of chaos, like you're actually winning, right? And you
Hmm.
don't have to
Hmm.
worry about doing things to keep one another. Like
Yeah,
you're there because you want to be there, and your partner is there because they genuinely want to be there. And
correct.
both of you are grateful for one another's company because
Sure.
everybody under both sides understand that this person doesn't have to do anything. So
Yeah.
everything they are doing, they're choosing to do, and
Hmm.
that's a blessing.
Yeah, and on the same side as you're going down is there is no chaos, there's no drama, which is a good thing. For some people, they live their relationship just expecting and living in chaos and drama every single day, like it's a norm. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the norm. It's not
Mm-hmm.
normal for you to be unhappy and constantly depressed about someone or having anxiety about this person in your life.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a relationship needs to be kept on fire. And the way I do it
Mm-hmm.
is I just surprise my wife. That's all I do. I just so
Mm-hmm.
that she doesn't see it coming. Because I don't want the
Mm-hmm.
same old, same old, same old. So sometimes I'll book a restaurant somewhere we've never been before, just to say, hey, listen, this relationship is worth nurturing. So I would do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll book a vacation somewhere and we go in here. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've just done one recently, but I won't say nothing here because I don't want to. I want to surprise her
Yeah, for
when we're
sure.
on the sandy beach, walking on that beach right there.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of uncertainty, creating that uncertainty and that surprise element keeps the relationship on fire, I believe. I think it's so important.
I can see that. I can see that. You you have a different methodology than me, but I do agree with that.
What?
You're using I have a friend who I was on the phone with today and we were talking about, the offering chaos and all that. I tend to use chaos in a negative connotation.
Yeah.
He basically said no, chaos is just, you know, a swinging of emotions,
Mm,
positive or negative or whatever. So I completely agree with you saying that is chaos in the positive sense. It's variety. It's we're gonna do
right.
something
Yeah.
new. I like the way you put that. I would agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say that because the I'm not saying everything's perfect, but one of the key things to I think we can talk about is communication in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Some people they think keeping quiet on a certain thing is
Mm-hmm.
the answer, and keeping quiet is not the way. And what's your take on communicating and communicating effectively? Because sometimes saying nothing your body language says everything, right?
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
both of you know there's something not quite right here. Something's going.
Mm-hmm. So I have this is a great question. I have such a nuanced take on this, right? So I think it's like 75% of communication is nonverbal communication,
True.
right? So even using less words or no words, you're still communicating, right? So I think people think, oh, well, we'll say, oh, well, he doesn't communicate or she doesn't communicate. No, they're communicating. They're just not using words, right? And so that is a form of communication. And I think that like we shouldn't criticize men because our form of communication, our mode of communication is different than the woman's, right?
Correct.
Now, ironically, I tell a lot of men like, bro, you need to talk to your wife less. you're communicating too much. Now, some men are, they don't need this advice. They need to communicate more.
Mm,
But in order to communicate effectively, you need to effectively understand how you feel. And so many men, they don't understand their feelings. I have a mentor who's a psychologist and a therapist, and he was saying some kind of stat about depression in America, right?
okay.
And the general consensus is that women are significantly more depressed than men, and he's like, I don't think that's true though. I think men are depressed too, but we just show it as anger. We show
Wow.
anger, but the deep down feeling underneath is sadness,
Mm,
hurt, overwhelm. And so if we were to categorize male anger that we're seeing
mm,
as depression, then we'd see that it's probably pretty equal across the board, right? And so going back to effective communication, there's only four or five main emotions, right? And this is the kind of stuff that I study and geek out about. There's
right.
sadness, which is the sense of loss. There
Mm,
is disgust, which is like the sense of like shock or repulsion.
mm,
There's anger, which is the sense that something you value is being threatened, right? Or the more, I think, primitive definition is something unfair has just happened. I don't believe in fairness, but that's one of the definitions. There is gratitude or joy, right?
mm.
The good warm sensation. And I'm missing one. But
Probably
then
about love, maybe love. Is it love?
yeah, but I would fall, that would fall under joy because there's
Gratitude.
five main ones,
Right.
but only one of them is positive.
Okay.
So that's when you realize human nature is, and you're born with the positive one, right? So
Mm,
we have all this junk that comes in and gets in the way. So we don't have to find happiness. We
mm.
have to remove all of the negative stuff or handle all the negative stuff effectively so that we can still maintain the joy and the love that we're born with.
Wow. Okay. Excellent. I want to take it on a side note. Last time, really, the last conversation we had was around business, sex,
Hmm.
and marriage. And before we jumped onto this conversation, we were talking about wealth and secrets of the millionaire mind and creating wealth and all this kind of
Hmm.
stuff. I want to take it down the business and wealth route now, and whether it's as a couple, as a man, or as a woman, or as a relationship. What's your take on building business or wealth together?
I think it is much faster than building it alone. So I'm definitely pro that.
Right.
And I think that if you really navigate the world of mating and dating successfully as a man, and I'll give the woman's aspect on it too, but as a man, if you do it correctly, like if you have a woman who genuinely enjoys you and she wants you for you, like the lifestyle is extra, because there are women out there who will engage in interactions and relationships with men where like they don't really want him. They want the lifestyle that he can
Brings
provide.
right.
Correct, right? And so
Yeah.
some of my clients, their biggest thing is like, how do I decipher between a woman who wants me for me or me for my lifestyle and
Right.
all that comes with me, right? Um, and so if you get a woman who really wants you, then like human nature is she's going to want to flex and mold and bend to what you want her to be so that you like her. Like that's just a woman's nature. And so then this is where it comes in where I tell men you should have expectations, right? I
Mm,
tell my wife, like, it doesn't matter what my goal is, your job is to support me in that. It might be taking over the world. It might be having a threesome. It might be anything. Your job is to support me in that. And if she loves me, if she cares, and if she wants to be in my life, then she understands, like, okay, I want him to, I want to support him in that, right? And so obviously building wealth is very important to me. And so she supports me in that. And then as a function of that, I'm just incredibly grateful. And I'm like, babe, how can I reward you? What do you want? Where do you want to
right.
go? And things like.
Right.
And so it's a harmonious relationship as opposed to Mac. And this is what a lot of guys do wrong. They want to make their wife happy, and so they try to buy her happiness with
Yeah.
trips
Work.
and bags, and it's
Yeah.
not sustainable because you only have so much money. Okay,
Mhm.
and women by their very nature, their desire to want, to obtain,
Yeah.
is insatiable. I've
Right.
had women tell me this. Like, you cannot, like, there's no amount of purses that she can get to where she won't want any more purses. There's no amount of yacht experiences and rides that she can have to where she want more. So, and to give is costly, to want is free,
I love
right?
that. I love that. Let
So,
me hear the flip side on the woman's, you
yeah,
spoke
yeah,
from the
yeah,
men's point of view. Let me hear from the women's point of view or your take from the woman's
yeah.
side.
So, as far as creating wealth in a relationship, it is
Yeah.
still easier. It is still better to do that with someone else, like with a man. Now,
Mm.
a woman's challenge is just different. It's let me start off with this backstory. I have a friend, right? And his wife is amazing. I've learned so much of what I'm telling you. He started me down this path, and
Right.
I was talking to his wife one day, and I was like, why do you think women are so fearful, right? And she said, look, imagine being born a woman. You know you're smaller and more frail than most men, right? And imagine being a woman and you are going to train in boxing or jujitsu or any martial art, and you've been doing it for 15 to 20 years. Now imagine knowing that that doesn't matter because you can still walk down the street and be harmed and beat up by the average
Right.
man. How would
Right.
that make you feel? I was like, I'd be petrified. I'd be scared of everything everywhere I went. Like, and so a woman's challenge in finding a partner to build wealth with is that naturally the man who she wants is going to be better than her in certain regards. She doesn't want a man who has her level of confidence. She wants a
Mm.
man who's more confident. She doesn't want a man with her business acumen. She wants a man with more business acumen, right?
Mm.
And so this man is better than her in all these regards. She wants to be able to look up to this man. However, when you are when she's in a submissive position where she has to follow, it can be scary if you don't know where this guy is leading you,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so many men, like, that's why it's important as a man to have a vision and say, hey, babe, this is what we're building. That's kind of easy to get behind, right? But then sometimes, like, for example, I told my wife we're in the Dallas, Texas area now. It
Mhm.
looks like the next big business move for me is to relocate my family to Atlanta. Now that's scary,
Okay.
right? Because all my wife's family is here, right?
Right.
All her friends are here. We don't really know a whole lot of people. So it can be hard for her to uproot her life because her man is saying, hey, this is where we're going. This is better for our wealth. This is going to be like, I'm putting myself in proximity to other people who can
Right.
up this process. And so her challenge is to say, okay, this is uncomfortable for me. Do I trust in him? Do I believe that this is going to work out and pay off? Right. So it's a trust issue that women have to get beyond. Okay. And a lot of times, this is another thing that makes men and women very different. A man will go out and amass a certain amount of income or wealth,
Yeah.
and he has a protect and provide function within his nature, right?
Yeah.
Women don't have that. Okay. They will go out and create a certain amount of wealth or income. And then they'll think, okay, well, if your wealth or income isn't at my level, then I'm not getting with you because now I'm not providing for you. I'm looking to be provided for.
Right.
Right. And so a
Right.
woman's challenge is the more successful she becomes, the less attractive options she has in the dating market, the fewer men she is even willing to follow. Because in her mind, if I'm this small, weak, feeble, being and I've been able to amass this amount of wealth, why haven't you too? What's
Right.
wrong with you? Right.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's the challenge from the feminine perspective. And what I would say to them is, like, let's just say that a woman's income is, you know, $78,000 a year, and she
Right.
doesn't want to partner with anyone whose income is less than that.
Yeah.
Well, even if she got with a guy whose income is 50,000 a year,
Mhm.
now your income is 130
Yeah.
together, right? So it's
Yeah.
still there's nothing she's going to do that I think to create $50,000, an extra $50,000 in a year, easier than wooing a man.
Right.
Like,
Right.
if you had the ability to go out here and woo somebody, and now they're like, hey, I just want to bring my income and I just want to, shower you with it. I want to give this extra
Mhm.
$100,000 to you. Like, if I had that ability, I would be out forming those kind of relationships all day. I wouldn't build a business. I just get in relationships, right? So I say that with tongue in cheek, but that's their challenge from the feminine perspective.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Wow. There's some deep stuff there. So you gave him the woman's take. You gave the man's take. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking about my own relationship, and all the turbulent times I've had. Because there was a time in my life where I was new. It's a funny thing. I remember I was in a corporate job, working hard, making good money. And I remember on my honeymoon, I said to my wife, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start my business. My friend, it didn't go down well.
So she's probably thinking, "Oh my God, I just tied myself to this guy. He's great. He's about to take this risk. He's doing this very certain thing he's obviously very good at. He's about to take this risk. Oh my goodness, what
Yeah.
the heck did I just
Yeah.
sign up for?"
Yeah. And the conversation didn't go down too well. But again, like in your words, I said, trust me, because I feel that I need to do this because I've worked for 10 years with these different companies. I'm not satisfied. I don't feel fulfilled. And I think I need to start my own thing. And I started my own business and it wasn't an easy ride. It was very turbulent. I got to a place where things weren't going right. All the promises I made weren't being fulfilled. I found myself over 100 grand in debt and struggling. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a
Mm-hmm.
wake-up call for me because we look back now and I went down the personal development route. I went
Mm-hmm.
to study about myself. I studied about relationships. I studied about money, wealth, business. And in a few short years, turned everything around and actually provided for my family properly as I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to. But I had to work on me first,
Yes.
personal development first. Nothing changes until I change. That was my
Yes.
realization,
And
you know?
as a result of that, look what happens. It strengthens her trust in you,
Mm,
right? Because most men wouldn't have been able to turn that around. Like that doesn't that's not your story is not like you're in the minority,
right.
like that most men wouldn't have done that. And
Mm,
so it strengthens her trust in you. And then as a man, when you're having a very hard time
yeah,
financially and the woman who you're with is like still there, she's still supportive, she's still kind of holding you down. Now what that does is like you're more ingrained, you're more invested in her. It's like, man, I got to give this woman the world because she was there when I had nothing. So I know she wasn't with me for my thing. She had to have been there for me,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That is the story that gets to, and I think experiences like that is what makes for long lasting relationships.
Yeah, definitely, definitely,
Yep.
definitely. I agree. It's great to hear your viewpoint on that. One of the things I studied years ago, which I didn't know, and I'm going to say this not to demasculate the man, but I want your take on it in terms of how do we utilize that and strengthen the relationship. And one of the th notions was this: when my wife is ready to speak about something or talk about something, I only have one job. And that job is to keep my mouth closed and actually listen to her and listen to what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I used to jump in years ago. She would say, this person at work did this, and this lady's annoying me. And I'll say, honey, don't worry. When you get back to work on Monday, you do this and you do this, you do. And it didn't go down well because I didn't realize she just needed to get stuff off her chest and say what she
Mm-hmm.
needed to say without me trying to
Mm-hmm.
fix everything. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And so by learning how to just keep quiet and listen, I think that helped my relationship a lot. What's your just one job? And why is
I
it?
have so many thoughts on this. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't want to
I
cut
was
you
just
off.
gonna say, what's your take on that? Because some men might say, okay, but if I'm just listening to her and she's going on and I'm doing whatever she say, that makes me weaker. But I think there is a time to just because you mentioned it earlier in terms of the way men and women communicate. And I think women have a lot more to say,
Mm-hmm.
take their time to say it and they'll
Mm-hmm.
express it when they want to express it rather than us men who's like, no, it's now and then I've got to move something, I've got to move on to the next thing, just do this and do
Mm-hmm.
that. And it doesn't work that way. And I had to learn that the hard way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So many opinions on this. One of my biggest things that I like, I've now I know I'm no longer indecisive on this. I know my stance, and my stance doesn't need to be everybody's. When I met my mentor, who kind of got me on the path of mating and dating, understanding the game and all that, right? One of the things I kept saying to him was like, She's nagging, like, you're telling me I have to listen to it? Like, I don't want to. I have to. And he's like, yep, you're her emotional tampon. Just get used to it. You have to listen. And I just didn't like that. And you gotta remember, Mac, my two beliefs are I don't use the have to language because there are only two things I have to do. I have to stay black and I have to die. I
Mm,
don't have to do anything else, right? I don't have to listen to anyone moan and complain or anything like that.
right.
I personally don't like it
Yep.
because, like, what does T. Harv Eker say? A crap magnet. Like, you're flinging your crap at me, and you
Right.
don't want a solution. You just want to fling crap at me. I
Uh,
don't want to hear it.
yeah.
Okay, so me personally, you have a few different options depending on how you want to play it. One, like giving of solutions. That's what men do.
That's
That
true.
that is what we do for people who we love and care about. We
That's
give
true.
solutions. If you didn't care about it, you wouldn't want to give solutions, right?
Mm,
Even if the solution is just something right here and right now to get you to be quiet. Okay. Um, so one, this goes back to me saying, like, I think men, like, they talk too much. Like, we talk too much to our wives. Like, there's too much proximity, right? When marriage was first invented, right? And I'm not talking about between a man, woman, and God. I'm talking about like a man and a woman coming together and deciding to do life together. And the
right.
oldest form, it was only so that we can have kids together. Like, that
Right.
was it.
Hmm.
And you did not get married to a man for him to listen to your problems and meet your emotional needs. That's what your mother and your
True.
cousins and your
True.
sisters are for. Like,
True.
men are not equipped to do that. Now you have, I think that you, because you're wealth centric and you're centering your relationship, like, all right, how can I make this the best relationship possible? You've learned that it's easier to just be quiet and to listen because that's what's best for the relationship.
Hmm.
I tend to think about what's best for me. Okay.
Right.
Because
Right.
what's best for me is what's best for my relationship. Going back to what I said on the last podcast, if
Hmm.
my confidence is a 2 out of 10, then my
Hmm.
wife gets a husband whose confidence is a 2 out of 10. But if my confidence is a 10 out of 10, then my
Yeah.
wife gets a husband whose confidence is a 10 out of 10. So whatever is best for me is what's best for all of my relationships. Just how I look at it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's not best for me to sit and listen to you moan and complain. That's not what's best for me. I get
Yeah.
that you're going through a hard time, but that's not what's best for me.
Hmm.
So there's a couple of different things that you can do. Okay. You can sit and listen and just be quiet.
Hmm.
That's one option. Okay. Um, and she kind of gets to get it out and maybe she feels better after the fact, but maybe she doesn't. Maybe she just feels, I've been told that emotions are like living creatures. So when
Right.
you're sad, like, there's a sad creature inside of you that wants to prolong itself. So it makes you think and move and act and talk in a sad way. Same
Right.
thing with anger and all these other emotions. So to me, all I'm doing is I'm allowing this creature inside of her to continue to exist. And I don't like that. Like, it's a full-time job keeping my energy high and vibrating high. And so to me, you're getting in the way of that. Right. So for that reason, I don't like to listen to it. Now what I do, you have a couple other options. You could say, I don't have the energy for this right now.
Hmm.
We'll talk about it later. Go sit down. Okay. That's a viable option. Right. And you say it with love. You don't have to be rude about it. Like, hey, love, I would love to, but like right now, I just don't have the space for it. I don't have energy. I don't like, I've got things to do. And I want us to get to this conversation. Just the timing is not right. Can we, let's table this for later? And then you give her a hug give her a hug, give her a kiss on the forehead and say, we'll talk about it later. Right.
Hmm.
Or you can just say, hey, not now, go sit down. Either way works. I'm more of a short to the point kind of guy, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Um, now my go-to option when I do have the time and energy for it is, you remember how I said a moment ago there's only five
Hmm.
major emotions?
Yeah.
What I've learned is that once you can put together the sentence, when this happened today or yesterday or at work, whatever, when this happened, I felt this emotion.
Uh-huh.
Once you can put that sentence together,
Hmm.
and you can, because one experience you might end up having three or four emotions, right? Once you can put all the sentences together and you can label all of your emotions accurately and you can bring all of it back to I statements, not like he pissed me off,
Oh, I
right?
get it. I get it. You
So
see,
once you can do that, the
yeah.
emotions go away. So I have my wife label the emotions.
Yeah.
So, okay, tell me what happened. Okay, how'd that make you feel? How'd you
Right.
feel about that? And then once she's given words and labels to all the emotions, they go away.
And it's a good point. You see, you've just constructed something where this is where I talk about personal development, where someone actually you have to. because not every man can communicate in the way you just said. For me,
Hmm.
I have my communication style. It works for my marriage. It's all good. And you have your own communication style. It works for your marriage. It's all good. When you said this, I felt like this. So it's compartmentalizing the emotion, actually addressing the emotion. And I'm not saying my wife comes out of emotions all the time. It's just sometimes you want to speak about something. It could be about anything, but my job is to listen. But sometimes it could be something that's not gone right. So hence the reason why I'm advocating people speak to you, because if you don't have the ability to communicate correctly in your relationship, it's going to hurt the relationship.
Hmm.
And not
Hmm.
everyone has the tools, the resources, the
Yep.
strategies to construct a sentence or understand that, okay, if I put it this way, actually, it will stop the arguments or it will take it more down a positive route. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And journaling helps too. Journaling is a great activity to get your thoughts out on paper. And I don't know about you, but there's been several times where I've had a thought, and then like by the time I write it down, it is totally different than what was in my head because it forces us to hone in on exactly what the thought is. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Good job. Good job. Listen, you are listening to the Business and Wealth Show with AD, the Kingmaker, and Matt Catchram, the Business and Wealth Coach. And I'm glad you're listening in right now. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share some emojis. What did you get out of this? I mean, what poked you, if you like? What woke you up? What irritated you? What? Just share in the comments. I'd like to know because there's no right or wrong. Does this work for you? Does it not work for you? We have our opinions on these things. So it'd be good to hear where you are on this, depending on which platform you are on. So, AD, what I want to say is, any last points you want to make? Anything I haven't asked you that we really should touch on before we come to an end here? Any
yeah,
particular thing when it comes to business or wealth or money or relationships or marriage? What would you?
yeah. I would say this is one of the biggest lessons I've learned, if not the biggest, in the past 12 to 18 months. Everything comes back to self. Everything. Everything comes back to self. You're not living your life. You're living the life that you focus on, and your focus typically comes from your perspective on yourself, right? If
Mm,
you see yourself as a victim, then you're going to see other people victimizing you all day, right? If
that's right.
you don't love yourself, right, or don't think you're worth loving, then you don't believe others love you.
Mm,
Therefore, you don't love others. So and I'm sure I said this on the last episode, it really, to me, in my eyes, it all comes back down to self-love, self-respect, self-acceptance, and gratitude. You must love yourself because no matter how much love, no matter how worthy someone else thinks you are, if you don't believe it, it doesn't matter. You must accept yourself because I'm at the point now where I lose relationships all the time, quote unquote, because people don't accept my way of thinking or believing,
mm,
and if I wasn't kind to myself, if I wasn't understanding, then I would have stopped thinking the way that I think. I would feel shame and I would kind of just live this lifestyle in these like bumpers where like I know I would fit into society, but I
mm.
wouldn't be fulfilled,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so leaders typically stand out, right? And so that's why self-acceptance and all that and gratitude. If I didn't have my, gratitude journal that I
Uh-huh.
wrote in every morning,
Yeah.
then, you know, I would be constantly focused on what I don't have and what I want. And so it all comes back down to those four pillars. And I think that's really,
Fantastic.
really, really important.
Great points there. Great points. On that note, if anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to connect or reach out to you, AD?
Absolutely. So they can reach me on Instagram at the RPA guy. Okay, that's where all the tech content is. And then if they're also interested in the masculinity, the dating, and the relationship stuff, then they can reach me on Instagram at uh, King's Corner Podcast TV. King's Corner Podcast TV. So King's Corner is the podcast where I talk about masculinity and things like that. So either way, reach out to me there. You can also find me on YouTube at both handles. So at the RPA guy or at King's Corner Podcast.
Excellent. Well, nice speaking to you again, and I'm going to wish you a great day. Thank you for all your input and your ability to articulate things in a certain way that wakes people up and think, especially men or women, maybe they're going through stuff right now. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Hmm.
What makes you satisfied? What makes you fulfilled? How can you work together? What can you do? But most importantly, have love for yourself, have respect for
Yes.
yourself, honor
Yes.
yourself. You're good enough. Excellent. Thank you
Absolutely.
very much, AD. Appreciate it. And until we speak again next time, everyone, thank you for tuning in. AD, thank you.
Thank you.